in logic there. Human rights is not based on self-interest, it's based on our humanity. Self-interest is based on what's in it for us. Is it protection? Is it resources? Is it the price in cash? But the real kicker that has really been stalling the political will, and we can see it now, still today, even with our commitment to Afghanistan, is the fear of casualties. Casualties. And the guy who started that was Bill Clinton. And the movie that was made around that was Black Hawk Down. In Mogadishu in October 1993, 18 Rangers were killed. And some of their bodies were dragged through the streets of Mogadishu, and Bill Clinton sat there and said, "The American people will not support me in a humanitarian mission for which there is no self-interest in the country. There's nothing there for us. They will not let our American boys and girls be killed for nothing other than human rights, humanity, protection of those who are being abused." And so he turned pale. 1.4 million people in their military, and he turned pale and abandoned us and the UN and hundreds of thousands of Somalis. And in so doing, created a fear of casualties that has spread to make all the countries gun-shy. 10 Belgians are killed in the first 24 hours in Rwanda, in a colony for which some of their policies created the atmosphere of friction that led ultimately to a genocide, and that country went inside out. And barely a word was said about the 800,000 Rwandans who were slaughtered. Are all humans human, or some more human than others? What's the argument of Afghanistan or against it? The cost? Our army is doing rogue work. I mean, are they raping, pillaging, and plundering? Are they ineffective? Or is it casualties, and casualties, and casualties? Hundreds of thousands of Afghanis are better protected. The nation is trying under a UN mandate. The UN wants us there. The UN has no army. It knows that this nation, this nascent democracy, is trying to pull itself out of the abyss, and it knows there is a terrible security problem because of extremism, and so they turn to nations, regions, like in Africa, the African Union, which is in Darfur, and they turn to other regions for help to assist in providing security until the Afghanis themselves can handle it. And so one of the regional capabilities that exists is NATO. And so they turned to NATO, the UN, and said, "Can you provide the security and also help them take on that task in due course?" And we respond to it. And yet even with that, we argue that the casualties is too high. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the reference point for our criteria? What are we telling our politicians? How much are we influencing them to say, hey, if we went in there to assist them and it's a UN mandate, we knew we'd be there for 40 years. We've been 40 years in Cyprus. And there'll be another 20 years before that one is solved. We've been 15 years in Yugoslavia, and God knows how long that's going to take. We've been 5 years in Afghanistan, which is a basket case compared to the others. And we want to pull out because we're having a rough time. Because we are in the heart of the conflict. Well, there have been other missions where other countries have been in the heart of conflicts, and we've been on the sidelines. And this time we are in the heart of it. And this time it's our time to pay the price of trying to bring an atmosphere of security, to permit a nascent democracy, to bring in good governance, rule of law, human rights, gender equality, to build its infrastructure, and to steady our hand in doing so. And not pulling out when political opportunism feels that it's too risky, but pull out when either we have succeeded in handing over to Afghanis who can do it themselves, or the generals and the diplomats and the humanitarians on the ground say it is impossible to solve. Then we do it. Not when politicians are getting away with opportunism. For if they are, that means that we who put them there agree with that philosophy. And in this era, ladies and gentlemen, you can't have it both ways. You can't be Bicefal. You can't be a great country which believes in human rights and thinks in the fundamental laws that create societies to evolve in a just way, and in the other side say, well, gee, you know, that's too expensive. We're not doing it. We can throw some cash at it, but not too much sweat nor tears, and certainly not some of the blood of our youth. Well, you can't have it both ways. You might as well stay home instead of being a hypocrite. And we are at this time frame. We have now stumbled into a level of responsibility as a leading middle power that is forcing our political elite to try to take mature decisions of a great nation in the world with enormous potential. And there are sacrifices with that. And I would contend, ladies and gentlemen, that the Canadian people have more depth and maturity and prepared for more sacrifices than our political elite has. For they are responding to what the media is setting as the standards, not as we, as a society, are setting. And in so doing, are fiddling with the opportunism and the sensationalism and the emotions and the pathos of us versus what we fundamentally believe is right. And so, yeah, we will take casualties. And we better be prepared for that. And we better be prepared to hold people accountable for ensuring they do the mission right and not just make sure they don't take casualties and abandon the missions as we are simply trying to articulate indirectly by letting the politicians get away with it. And so, yeah, we are one of those big players up there. And we don't even have the ability to hide behind our Constitution like the Germans and the Japanese are. It's been 60 years. It's been 60 years. We don't just need their cash. We need their brain power. We need their boots on the ground. We need their people to participate in assisting the world with the enormous potential they have. And not this artificial history that they are using or not wanting to push the envelope on. And so we are with the big boys up there, and we have that responsibility, and we have the capabilities. Look at, we master technology, so much so that we're giving it to the Americans, and all our space stuff through McDonnell Douglas that we're selling to the Americans. I mean, it's worse than the Admiral Hour. By the by, it's the same political party. I wasn't supposed to say that.